Hello everyone, how are you doing? Good morning. It's about 4:08 in the morning today. Yeah, it's my actual first day of work as an optometrist. I'm not really going to be directly seeing a lot of patients today. I'll be following and shadowing and learning how they do things at their office, meeting the staff, everything like that. That's not what this video is about. This is also not my official optometry educational video that's coming out later today. This is my intro to my clips that I'll be uploading this morning, and also just something kind of interesting. So earlier, I think my second or third or fourth video made a lot now. My second or third or fourth video was about why is the sky blue? All these things. It was like pretty scientific and a little deeper on the educational level. Hopefully you found it interesting if you watched it. I actually found it interesting myself and didn't know I was going to go into all those things, and I was glad that I did. So this one's going to be a little similar to that. And this has to do with the little challenge or experiment that I did yesterday. If you've been following me still, thank you, first of all. But the challenge was I was going to go for a run because I had been social media challenged to do a 5K, which I thought was just go for a run. Anyway, that's a whole different story. So I went for this run and I thought, North Dakota is so cool and people just don't get it. They forget the state exists and they say I live in South Dakota all the time, which is fine. South Dakota is great too. But I live in North Dakota and it's a flyover state. People forget about it. And it's just, the people here are so nice and it's so amazing. So I just like to try to educate people in North Dakota. Again, this is not even what the video is going to be about. The video is going to be about, quick spoiler alert, research and quality of research. And this is the pyramid of kind of the levels of research we're going to get into really soon. But I made a challenge to my friends, viewers, whoever have been watching my life, I guess. Whoever has been watching my life. I said, I'm going to go for this run and I'm going to have you guys guess how many wave-to-wave interactions I'm going to have on this run. And by that I mean, in North Dakota, when you come across people, they just are nice and they just kind of wave when you see each other. If you're both pulling up at a stop sign or stoplight, you kind of look at each other to see who's going to go and you wave. It's just what it is. So I'm like, I bet there's going to be people that are waving at me on this run. So let me just kind of promote North Dakota a little bit with this challenge and have people guess how many waves there's going to be, how many waves there will be, wave-to-wave interactions. So I did that and I thought it was like super simple experiment, challenge. Went for my run and there were things that I just didn't anticipate, I guess, or think about before I had planned this experiment. So I did get the waves. I also got kind of like finger waves, knuckle waves with your hand on the steering wheel. I got nods, people that are biking, nods. So I didn't really account for those exactly. I also didn't account for extended conversations without waves. I had one stop in my tracks. Like I literally had to stop running and take my earphone out and talk to this guy. I didn't have to, but I did because I just had a question pop up for him because he lived in a really cool area with a little lake and river that I didn't know existed in Fargo. So I just had to ask him about it real quick. We had this extended conversation. I left and I don't think there was ever actually a wave. So while that, should seem like it counts because it's North Dakota Nice, it doesn't count in my initial setup for my experiment. So that just got me thinking to all of this here that I'm going to talk to you about today about like experiments, evidence-based research, evidence-based clinical decision-making, which is how you practice medicine the best that you can. There's not always evidence to support, like strong evidence to support your decisions because maybe the disease is rare, there hasn't been enough research, or research just isn't really possible because you're not going to subject patients to something like, this is my treatment group, this is my group I don't treat. You're not going to not treat these people when it's like diseases that are known to have treatments and they need them, or they'll have detrimental effects. So we're just going to go into that and let's go ahead and try to get started real quick. Shout out to Hoku. I'm eating a burrito. Okay, here we go. So this is the, what is the official name here? Levels of Evidence Pyramid for this official name on this website. Anyway, Wikipedia. You can think this doesn't matter because it's on Wikipedia. That's not really how it works, guys. But all right. So this is describing the different levels of evidence in research. Lowest levels of evidence, like the least beneficial, it's not the right word, but this is the lowest level of evidence. It gets better. Randomized controlled trials, RCTs, are a very good place to be, but it gets better than that too. Critically appraised individual articles, critically appraised topics, systematic reviews, which is really awesome, and then tip of the pyramid, meta-analyses. So meta-analyses are really taking, and again, I am not a research scientist. I am not an absolute expert on these things. When you go into a field of medicine, you learn about these things because you need to be able to look at studies and evidence and kind of determine the validity of the results, especially if it's something new that's like very contradictory to what the gold standard is or something like that. You can't just have this one study come out and be like, oh, everything's changed. Because it's just not, they have to go through so many steps, you guys. The trials, the experiments have to be so well thought out, and you just have to look at everything. So I'm going to try to give you like a very small snippet of that and why it's really hard for people to just go and read studies on their own and make conclusions and say, this is the way things are because this one study is what I saw, or maybe there's these few studies that kind of say the same thing. There's just so many things, you guys, real quick. These are just selected lists, so not comprehensive list of major biases, not all minor or other biases or errors in quantitative studies for 4 research domains. Look at all these biases that just occur in well thought out research and studies. It's really hard to account for all these things. It's really hard to not have any of these things. And this is by research scientists that do this, like, for their living. They go into these fields, they have PhDs, they learn about this stuff so well, and they still have trouble making sure that they don't do any of these things at all. And if there is no way around some of these, the really good people will mention that in their studies, and they say, hey, our sample size, our group of study people or whatever it is that they're studying, has a little bit of sampling error or something, and we acknowledge that, but this is the best we can do because you just can't have a perfect experiment all the time. So again, guys, these are the research levels of evidence. You can Google it, read about it some more to learn about those. Meta-analyses are good, but again, a meta-analysis is only as good as the constituents of it. So it really is a combination of a lot of these lower levels of evidence, and they try to draw conclusions by looking at all those things and making a meta-analyses. Meta-analyses are done by groups of scientists, not one scientist, groups of scientists and people that critically appraise, if that's the right terminology, all of these studies and try to make the most accurate conclusions to research that is out there. But again, it depends on the quality of the individual studies as well. I'm going to wrap it up real quick here. Like, this is one example of how you kind of have a question. For example, does hand washing among healthcare workers reduce hospital-acquired infections? It's a pretty simple question, right? Pretty easy to just kind of Google that, or kind of like common sense to know some of that, at least for us today. Back in the day, there was, probably a time that you didn't really know that. So this is PICO. This is like one method of kind of looking out at the research and trying to answer a question that you have. You have to put it into these different sections, and there's different ways to search for it. And it is, guys, it's just hard. It's hard. That's why you really, at the end of the day, you got to listen to the people that know what they're talking about. You got to listen to scientists that do this for a living. I went to a conference in 2017, the American Academy of Optometry. I went to this talk by Charles Wormington, PhD, OD, FAAO, professor at Salus University. He talked about evidence-based optometry. He's a cute old guy who didn't even have a PowerPoint. He just had his notes that we scrolled down on. Everyone else that day had PowerPoints. I can't, this is not mine to share, so I'm not gonna have it on video here. But let me just talk about one thing. I'm sure I can find something really quick. There's the Pico worksheet. I don't think this is his directly, so I will show you that really quickly. If it is his directly, then I am sorry, but it's for the greater good, Mr. Wormington. Yeah, Cochrane Library, check that out. That's a pretty good way to find some research, but again, you have to be very careful when you're trying to make conclusions looking at research on your own. So for example, us as optometrists, we don't go out and do the Pico and search all these things and say, oh, okay, that's the best thing for my patients, and now I know that, and hopefully other people know that. No, because we are not experts at interpreting results of studies. So what we have that are kind of that are really the basis for our gold standard treatments and management of diseases are things like this: the AOA, American Optometric Association, their evidence-based, consensus-based clinical practice guidelines. You guys can go to the website and look at this if you're really interested. We also have AAO, the American Academy of Ophthalmology, preferred practice patterns. That one is very well done and updated quite frequently. And within that, this is one last example, you guys. AMD stands for age-related macular degeneration, also known as, or also spelled as ARMD, depending on who you're talking to or what study you're reading. Okay, so in these, we have gold standards of treatment for macular degeneration. But research comes out, and this particular research that I was delving into, you can see the different studies I was looking at. I was kind of just taking note of the size of the N, the number of people in the study, the kind of their groups, group 1, group 2, kind of the differences between those, and just kind of trying to perform, I'm not even going to say that. I was trying to just get as much evidence as I could about the studies that they have out there about mesozeaxanthine. This is another macular carotenoid macular pigment. Let's see, macular pigment following supplementation. This is all about supplementation of macular carotenoids for people with early stage ARMD, AMD, macular degeneration. There is like a landmark study out there called AREDS and AREDS 2. So what our standard of treatment right now is to use this AREDS formulation of macular pigments. It comes in a pill, and for early to intermediate stage macular degeneration, this is an actual recommendation that we give for patients for treatment, because out of all the research out there that has been done on it, this has been found to be effective in preventing people from getting to the later stages of macular degeneration, which really does permanently affect your vision in potentially terrible ways. So anything we can do that is actually, pretty evidence-based, or at least as evidence-based as we can make it, we're gonna recommend for our patients. So what this is that AREDS formula was ultimately 2 major carotenoids. So this mesozeaxanthine is sort of a third variation, and they were kind of saying that it's better than just having the 2. So that's what I was really looking into. And ultimately what I'm finding, or what I found, this was a while back now, is that yes, supplementation does affect your blood serum levels of macular pigments. So your body is absorbing these carotenoids through an oral dose of supplementation, which is awesome. Also, it does seem to increase the level of these pigments or carotenoids in the macular area, which is where they need to get to. So not only does it get absorbed into the bloodstream, but it also reaches that macula, that important spot that we want it to go to. So awesome. Again, so LMZ stands for lutein, zeaxanthine, which are the 2 original AREDS ones, and then M stands for the mesozeaxanthine, which is kind of the newer one that they've been including. Does having that third one make a really significant, or even like clinically significant impact for these patients? That I would have to go through some of this research again. And from what I remember, it might be a little better. Is it like way, way better? I don't think so. Again, I would have to look at this again to really say, but ultimately what it, boiling down to what happens with this sort of research in real life is this. So this is what happens now, me as an optometrist with this information. While I will always recommend AREDS 2 or AREDS 2 for formulation for people with early to intermediate stage macular degeneration that fall into the group where it is known to be beneficial or has been found to be beneficial. Will I say, actually, I want you to take this version, which has the base AREDS formulation, but also adds this one thing that I think will be better? I think what I will say right now, based off of what I've learned, is that, you know, you have to do AREDS at least. That is my official medical recommendation for you. Professional opinion or professional recommendation, whatever you want to call it. This other version is newer. The research is newer. It looks like it might possibly be better. How much better, I don't know. But I would feel comfortable giving you this version as well because it has that base formulation. It just adds another third important ingredient there. It might be better, it might not. This is the thing, guys, in real life though. So that normal AREDS formulation, that's going to be X amount of dollars. That newer one with the newer things and the newer research, that is going to be X plus a Y number of dollars. That Y can be significant for patients. The X can already be significant for patients. X plus Y can be really significant for patients. So I will probably give them both options. And I will say, you know, you really, really should at least be taking this X one. If you have the means and are really concerned and you want to do everything in your power to, you know, have the best chance, possibly have the best chance. I can't say that this is better than this, but then, yeah, I feel comfortable with you going with this version as well. If you're able to afford it, if that's what you would like to do, but you need to at least have this X formulation. So that is where I'm going to leave it at, you guys. Hopefully that wasn't just like, well, it was probably a lot of information, but that's what goes on in science, the scientific community. That's why you gotta trust in your scientists. There is some stuff in the world that, you know, skews research results one way or another. So it can be sometimes difficult to trust in results depending on, you know, possibly depending on, you know, who funded the research and things like that. But sometimes these people are funding the research because no one else will, and the research needs to be done. And yes, it will benefit them if it's true. But you guys, just trust in your scientists at the end of the day. That's all I have to say. I am going to, in my Instagram stories, reveal the winner of who got closest to the number of wave-to-wave interactions I have. I decided just to go with the waves. I didn't include the extended conversation or anything like that. The winner will receive something that I still don't know what it is yet. But you guys have a good morning. Check out my official optometry educational video that's coming out later today. And just have a good day. All right. See you guys.